So I'll spend a few minutes on each one of the profiles. This is the first one, the Device to Enterprise Communication, or DEC. So on the left side, we have devices. They produce observations. Those observations are communicated to consumers. There's a variety of consumers, but ultimately it's to create the electronic medical record for patients. If there's too much data coming through from the devices, to avoid the fire hose effect, we also support an optional device observation filter. Next up is alert communication management. Devices produce all sorts of results that need to be communicated to individuals. So it's the focus of ACM to get that information from the devices to the appropriate individuals. And in order to do that, we have the reporting source, we have a manager for the alert, and the actual communicator, or the way to get to the mobile device that is associated with the person. To abstract things a bit, the alert manager is responsible for knowing which communication device to send the alert text to based upon a number of factors. It may be the specific type of alert, or it may be the time of day for a specific staff member associated with a patient. So it offloads all of that from the alert reporter. As I'm also one of the co-leads for the ACM working group, I have a lot of awareness of what goes on with an ACM. So we talk about alerts as having a phase, a start, middle, and end kind of thing. Additional information associated with the alerts, where they're coming from, the actual alert text. In the case of PBX phone systems, the ability to do callbacks, the timestamp, so we can have traceability of the information and the actual evidentiary data should the alert communication device want to assemble its own messaging. One thing unique about ACM is that it tracks the progress of the message from the reporter through the manager to the communicator out to the recipient and then back again. So we can track, assuming the underlying notification systems, mobile devices, etc., support it. We can know when things are delivered or not, when they're read or not, and whether or not the person on the other end accepted them, rejected them, or canceled them. And if it's a PBX phone, if they do a call back to a pillow speaker or to lab results notification. Point of care infusion verification. I'm sure you're mostly aware of the 5 rights: right patient, medication, dose, time, route. We also add the right device. This is a means whereby we can take the physician's order for something to be infused to the patient and review that, and then program that into the infusion device, and then confirm the programming, and then log that as that is the infusion currently going on with that patient for that device, for that medication. Infusion pump event communication, while it works best with PIV, the previous profile, it can also be run independently. It essentially logs all the events that take place during the course of a medication administration. So if there's a start of delivery, somewhere along the line it gets paused or stopped, or at the completion of the delivery. So all of that information can be logged. Implantable device cardiac observation. Think of it as the DEC profile from earlier slide, except we're extending this to support implantable devices, which may not have enough communications capability or may report using other data transports or syntax, and gatewaying that to a format such that it's consistent with all the other PCB profiles. Retrospective data query. So we've been storing all of this data on some server someplace, and now we want to get that data back out. This is data being retrieved sort of at the raw level. It's not that you're pulling up a conclusive report. There are ITI domain profiles associated with pulling up detailed reports, etc. This is to actually get a playback of the original observational data. So we can store the data and then query and get back the data. The queries can be filtered by patient and device and time range. Then we have the medical equipment management or MEM related profiles. We have device management communication or DMC and location services. The idea of DMC is that the device holds a wealth of knowledge that is best shared with other systems in the healthcare institution, be that the electronic medical record system, but we're predominantly focused on the equipment management systems so that you can know when a device is in need of servicing, when a device is available, when a device might need cleaning, what devices you have out on the infrastructure such that if you have to do an update, you can know all the devices and their identification and version information. So it's all of that collection of information that is not directly associated with patient observations in the device, but you want that information for management purposes. And then also the location of things, be it patients, people, devices. You'd like to know where the device is so that you can perform any service needed on it. You'd like to know where the device is should you want to go make use of it. You'd also like to know the location of people, not so much for tracking them, but for at the onset of something or at the conclusion of something, the transition of that individual from one location to another, patient entering room, so to speak. But in the case of non-clinical folks, the IT or the clinical engineering folks, you'd like to know where they are so that they can be identified as where are they right now so that you can dispatch them to go take action on a piece of equipment that needs to be maintained. Waveform content module. WCM is not so much a freestanding profile as it is a defined means of communicating waveform empirical data, not as a graphical set of lines, but as the raw data itself, including concepts like filtering, such that the information that can be communicated in a digital form for the DEC profile within the PCD01 message, or for the ACM profile within the PCD04 message, doing so between those two profiles in a consistent manner. How the waveform ultimately gets presented, whether it's presented in an EMR or presented by an alert communication device, that's not really the focus of WCM, as its real focus is on a means of digitally communicating the raw evidentiary data. Optimized message syntax is, again, not a new freestanding profile. It's a means whereby you can take the existing profile and shortcut the amount of data being communicated so that it will work over slower legacy interfaces such as RS-232 serial ports, while not reducing the usefulness or consistency of the messaging. And the folks at the U.S. NIST organization really does carry its weight in providing us with the analysis and the verification of messages. That is useful for IHE pre-connectathons, connectathons, for testing equipment prior to going to those events. They offer 24/7 online services in order for us to verify vendor-produced solutions, absent things like verification testing, critical management of messaging, so you can do a lot of trial and error absent external scrutiny, but it does follow the international standards, as well as having defined IHE profiles specific to particular actors within the profile and messages within the profile.